Yes, this is a new channel that is Dynasty exclusive when it comes to Dynasty Fantasy Football. But does that mean that I have not been evaluating Dynasty rookies for years and years for the purpose of drafting in Dynasty Fantasy Football? No, it does not. I have been doing that for years on my main channel, Football Fanalysts Network, but this is the Dynasty exclusive channel so that all of your Dynasty content is centralized. And it is that time of the year. I can't wait to get into this year's Dynasty rookie class, and this video officially marks the beginning of that season. So today, I'm going through the top 10 wide receivers in this year's Dynasty rookie class of 2024. So guys, please make sure to go down there, drop a like on this video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support if you do appreciate this content. And if you're familiar with my Football Fanalysts channel and you appreciate that content as well. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. So I think that number one, it's not going to surprise anybody, and it's Marvin Harrison Jr. of Ohio State. Now, I have to admit something about Marvin Harrison Jr. really quick. The first thing that I have to say with him is that I was a little bit biased on him for a long time. So when I was growing up, his dad, Marvin Harrison Sr., he was one of my favorite receivers ever. I loved Marvin Harrison. In fact, back then, I tried to model my game after him. His route running consistency, his crispness of running routes, just how open he got and how consistently dominant he was. I tried to emulate that as best I could. So I kind of came in already liking Marvin Harrison Jr. I just thought those traits are going to translate to his son. And I tried to hold off on that bias for a little bit with him. Man, I got to tell you, Marvin Harrison Jr. is excellent. He's marvelous. He really is marvelous. I tried to pick him apart. And there's really only one thing that I could find with Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison Jr., the one thing that does concern me is I don't know how, there was a couple games in 2023 where he would leave early due to injury. And it would be like, oh, it happened again? Like, that's how I remember feeling when I was watching Ohio State play this year. And kind of watching the film back as well. And I think that's the only concern, but at the same time, like, he always came back. He always came back. This guy's got the body type of a prototypical X. He's above 6'2". We'll see what his official numbers at the combine are, because by the way, don't pay attention. If you're new to Dynasty, do not pay attention to any college's official stats on a player and exactly how big they are. They lie because they have no incentive to be honest. The NFL draft, the combine, they're honest about the weight and height of a player. I would bet that Marvin Harrison's over 6'2". He's probably over 200 pounds. Marvin Harrison has the body type. He runs a complete route tree. He gains separation, which at that size, very, very impressive to do. And I would imagine that Marvin Harrison Jr. is a top 5 pick in this year's NFL draft. And that kind of draft capital is going to give him a long leash in the NFL level. At number 2, number 2 can go either way. So I've got Malik Nabers of LSU, one spot above Rome Odunze out of Washington at number 3. So Malik Nabers, here's my thing about Malik Nabers. I think the way I described this one to everybody is that Malik Nabers and Rome Odunze for the past year have been going back and forth at this number 2 spot for me. They have been going back and forth. Marvin Harrison is a clear number 1 to me. Underneath that, Malik Nabers right now is 2A and Rome Odunze is 2B. That's just kind of how I feel about these guys right now, because I like things about both of them a lot. Malik Nabers, to me, what separates him from Odunze is I believe that he's more diverse and he has more of a route tree because he can separate consistently and runs better, more consistent routes than Rome Odunze. They both have big playability. They can both go deep. They can both go underneath, make plays happen. They're both good football players. But the way I look at it is, obviously, since we're shooting this in January, we have no idea where these guys are going to end up in the NFL. I would imagine that both these guys are first-round draft picks, though. What we know about NFL teams, though, NFL teams can screw things up all day long. So the way I look at this is, let's say that two bad coaches and two bad teams get a hold of both Malik Nabers and Rome Odunze. The way that we need to look at it is the wide receiver with more in his bag has a better shot at making it work in fantasy football than the guy who's good at one thing. And let me be clear, Rome Odunze's very good at the one thing. But his thing is going deep and adjusting to the ball late, making defenders look stupid, making tough catches look routinely easy. And that's a fantastic quality that I love because he does it very, very, very well. Malik Nabers could do more than that though. He's over the middle more often. He had a better target share in 2023. Why? Because he can separate and go over the middle of the field and do more things with himself as a wide receiver than Rome Odunze can. But no slight at all to Rome Odunze. He's just at number 3. At number 4, there's a clear tier break to me right here. Number 4, I feel pretty strongly about this tier break, and I've got Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. Brian Thomas Jr. kind of falls in line for me. Here's the thing. If you don't know much about me and my channel, I've always been a bit of an LSU wide receiver fanatic. There's two colleges I love the wide receivers consistently. Ohio State and LSU. Those wide receivers there's usually at least one good one every year or every other year. And Brian Thomas Jr. kind of falls in the category to me where I think that it's 50-50 whether or not he works. I think he could easily become a very good player in this league. He's got, and I would make the argument of this, I think there's an argument to be made that Brian Thomas Jr. has the most physical gifts in this entire 2024 wide receiver class. I think there's a case to be made. Just natural talent alone. He's big, he's tall, he's thick, burner speed at the size. There's just no wonder why he turned out to be a breakout player with Jaden Daniels this year. You know, but there's limitations here. It's similar to Rome Odunze. He's not a over the middle of the field wide receiver. Low target share. Junior year breakout. Those are not good things. Not good things at all. If I'm going based on film, I'm giving this guy a B grade. He's got a grade B. Because he's not consistent enough, although I do love the potential gifts. So it really comes down to who gets a hold of Brian Thomas Jr. Because if he gets drafted by a progressive, smart offensive coach, that's a good thing. But if he gets drafted to, you know, a Bill Belichick, right? And I love Bill Belichick, but he's just not, what track record does he have at developing wide receivers? Not a good one. So it's going to come down to who drafts him. I think he's got a good shot at big playability, and I do think he'll probably be a borderline first or second rounder in the NFL draft. At number 5 and number 6, because I do think that this one may surprise people. For those of you who may be tuned in to the Dynasty rookie class, I've got Troy Franklin out of Oregon, one spot over Keon Coleman out of Florida State. Now, let me be clear on this one right here. I like Keon Coleman a lot as well. It's very similar to a Rome Odunze, Malik Nabers situation where they're sort of 5A and 5B. Troy Franklin, I think this one's going to surprise people because I don't think that the majority of people probably don't know who he is, but I do think that people definitely are not giving him the hype he deserves. I think Troy Franklin, when you look at this guy play, this guy hits a lot of boxes for me. And this is something that you'll see me break down on film if you're interested in the Patreon, and there's a link to that in the comments below. Come watch film with me if you have interest in watching me put my Dynasty rookie prospect model for wide receivers into action. Because here's the thing, he checks good boxes right now. College breakout year, sophomore year. That's a good thing. The earlier, the better. That indicates how soon a college player will adapt to the NFL level very, very consistently in fantasy football specifically. Film breakdown grade, I think when you come watch film with me, you'll see why I like Troy Franklin. I'm giving this guy an A-. And again, come watch me break down the film. The only thing I didn't like about him was that he had a low target share this year, 13.8%. And I do think that there's a lot of body catch action going on with him. I don't love that. But as far as the route tree he runs, the big play ability he has, the field stretching ability he has, the length and the catch radius, they're all very good things. And Keon Coleman, I think that based on, if you're looking for a guy who's a highlight reel player and has a lot of physical gifts, Keon Coleman would be above Travis Franklin. I think there's a very good argument. I don't have any problem with anybody ranking Keon Coleman over Troy Franklin. This is a personal preference for me because Keon Coleman, I want to highlight just how elite his highlight reel is. It's elite. Keon Coleman is fantastic to watch. Deep threat. He pulls a sweet double move that creates separation. Very good at jump balls. Like, this guy is just an athlete, a freaky guy. You know, I over the years in fantasy football, I've had to really evolve and kind of become more well-rounded when it comes to scouting players. I used to fall in love with guys like this. I'm a film guy first. I love film, and I think it's the most important part to finding true hidden gems, especially when they're rookies coming in. But that doesn't tell the whole story here. Because if I watch film on this guy, I'd be really impressed. And he'd be higher than Troy Franklin. But what the thing about Keon Coleman is, Keon Coleman did not have a single 1,000-yard receiving season in Florida State. Why? A lot of people will point to Jordan Travis not being there for part of the season as the reason why. I think that's fair. But even with Jordan Travis, 2 100-yard receiving performances. That's just flat out not good enough. So there's lots of physical gifts here, I think, with both of these guys. And I think that there's an argument to be made, more boomer bust type of players. I prefer Travis over Keon though, but I think they both have a lot of talent. Devante Walker out of North Carolina at number 7. Devante Walker, he was kind of he's been one of the more interesting guys I've studied out of this class so far. You know, based on film, lots to like. Size, speed, unbelievable catch radius. This guy's got a crazy vertical. There's a lot to like about this guy. It's a similar situation to Keon Coleman, though. No 1,000-yard receiving season. In fact, he got outshined in 2022 by Josh Downs, who's now with the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, Josh Downs is a good player. He also had Drake May. What happened in 2023? 2023, he actually had 200 less yards this year than he did last year. Why? Well, he did miss some time, but I would argue that if this guy had wide receiver 1 potential, we should have seen more production on a per game basis, and we just didn't see that. So I've got questions with Devante Walker, but I do think that he'll probably be a 3rd round pick, somewhere around there in NFL drafts. This is the big one. Xavier Worthy out of Texas is at number 8. Xavier Worthy is a guy that, you know, I want to get this out of the way. Dude's small. He's under 170 pounds. We don't know his exact numbers yet because, as I said earlier, colleges lie about this crap all the time. Xavier Worthy has really been, you know, a roller coaster for me. Now, I did a video earlier today, as the time of this release, on my Football Fanalysts Network main channel about Tank Dell and why he's a pioneer in fantasy football. I believe it's because of guys like Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy, I think, has a real shot to become a Tank Dell 2.0. This guy on film is super impressive. Big play threat. He can also just go out and get you 6 catches for 80 yards. Separation skills, incredible. Speed, top tier. Top tier speed. He's a risky guy. That size to me is still risky. But I do think Xavier Worthy, very interesting player. And it's ultimately going to come down to the team fit for me. He's a fluid position right now. 9 and 10. I've got Xavier Legette out of South Carolina, and this may make people laugh, I've got Lad McConkey out of Georgia. So Xavier Legette, this is the classic guy. As I said earlier, I'd fall in love with this guy if it was 2015. I would have fallen in love with this guy because I didn't study enough of the metrics, the data, the statistics that help bring the whole piece of the puzzle together. Because that's what it is. It's solving a puzzle. If I was just watching film, I would have really liked this guy. I would have been all over him. This guy was dominant. He had a top tier season in 2023. Dude's big, and at that size, his breakaway speed is actually unbelievable. Very, very impressive guy. Super, super good athlete. But you want to know something? This guy didn't break out until he was a fifth-year senior this year. Not only did he not break out, he never cracked 200 yards in any of his first 4 seasons. That is bad. Bad. So I've got concerns with Legette. And it's not even an age thing, because honestly, age, sometimes I think gets overhyped, especially in Dynasty. I think the good thing about a guy like this, while there is negatives attached to it for sure, like his lifeline in the NFL, I think the positive is that a guy who's older, those guys usually do, if they do hit, they'll hit immediately. A Jaden Reed came into this season, he's 23 years old now. Tank Dell, older rookie. 2 great examples right there. I think if he hits early and you figure it out. So that's a decent thing. Lad McConkey is the type of guy, man, so undervalued and so overlooked, I think. Just picture Hunter Renfrow. If you don't know much about Lad McConkey, just think of Hunter Renfrow. The guy who looks like he could be your local neighborhood plumber. That's Lad McConkey. Smaller guy, not much of a, super athlete. But you know what? This guy gets it done. Why? Because this guy knows how to play the game. He is a good receiver because he knows how to find the soft spot in the zone. And again, this is a perfect guy to watch me do a film breakdown on Patreon. This is a perfect guy because I'll highlight exactly how I know this guy understands defense. Lad McConkey, lots of good things about him. Redshirt sophomore year was a breakout. Not the best, still a good deal. Film breakdown grade, he's in the B range. We'll see how early he gets drafted, but I do think that this type of guy could be very beneficial to a quarterback in the NFL because we've seen the model before. We've seen the Hunter Renfrow model and him finishing as a top 10 wide receiver just a couple seasons back. Why? Because he's a safety blanket for his quarterback. The model is there for Lad McConkey to be a decent scoring player for you in a full PPR or even a half PPR league. So let me know what you think of the rankings in the comments below and what questions you need answered for Dynasty Fantasy Football in your 2024 rookie drafts. And if you're new to fantasy football and want to understand more about these Dynasty rookie draft picks, click on this video right here to show you a very good tool in Dynasty Fantasy Football where you can store your draft picks and not have them on your bench spot or your active roster.